Good morning, students. I am Professor N.V.S.N. Sharma. In today's class, we are going to study the most modern radar used by developed and developing countries. This is known as phased array radar. In this, the antenna system is the specialty. Let us see first what are the basic limitations of the conventional radars, particularly in terms of the antennas used by them. Limitations of mechanical scanning radars. The first one is that the pointing the antenna is very slow. The reduced reaction times means if you are looking at a particular direction and if you suspect that in another direction there is another target coming up, to move the antenna to that location, it takes considerable amount of time compared to the speed at which the targets are moving these days. The third one is blindsided. That means if the antenna is looking at a particular direction, what is happening in the other directions cannot be observed by the radar system. The fourth one is mechanical error. That means the pointing direction you have fixed, say, is at 15 degrees. It may be within 0.5 degrees on either side, but may not be exactly at 15 degrees as we see because of the mechanical movement involved or the backlash errors that are likely to crop in. But the present day targets are moving with very high speeds, and to track them we need very high speed tracking mechanisms. Mechanical movement of the antenna is not going to be sufficient for these things. So people have switched over for electronic means for these things. That means the antenna beam is going to be steered to different locations by electronic means and hence achieve the electronic speed of movement, that is at 3 into 10 power 8 meters per second theoretically. So let us see what will be the advantage if we switch over to electronic means of steering the antenna beam of a radar system. There will be increased data rates. Why we are calling it as data in this context is that we are basically transmitting a pulse and trying to get the return of this pulse by the target. So the received signal is a distorted form of a data signal. As you can send large number of pulses towards the target within a short time, so whatever you are getting to be processed is again data rate. Instantaneous beam positioning. That means presently if the antenna is looking at a particular direction and if you want to switch over to another location, it is almost instantaneous because this beam switching is done by a computer control. Elimination of mechanical errors. As the commands are given to this antenna system by a computer, the antenna beam will be exactly positioned wherever it is supposed to be. Multi-mode operation. That is, here as we are going to use a number of antenna elements as an array, in case of necessity we can divide this whole set into 2 or 3 or 4 sectors and operate them separately to get different beams from them. That means multiple beams can be produced by the same antenna array and they can be used for different applications. Ideally, if you are going to have n number of elements in this antenna array, you can generate n multiple beams for different type of jobs. Hence, we can have multi-target capability. At the same time, we can track or scan multiple targets and acquire the data about these things. So these are the basic advantages we can get from these new generation radars known as phased arrays. In the slide shown here, you can see that the same antenna system is giving three different beams, and these three beams are being used for different applications. The one is used for search, that is to identify whether there are any targets in the surrounding regions. Another beam is being used for weapons tracking. A third beam is also generated to go for air traffic control. So multiple beams can be generated for multiple tasks. What is this phased array? What is this phase concept in this? The electromagnetic energy received at a point in space from two or more closely spaced radiating elements is a maximum when the energy from each radiating element arrives at a point in phase. You can see that this addition can be done in two ways, or this addition is generally known as interference of two signals. So the interference can be constructive interference or destructive interference. In the diagram shown here, you can see that a constructive interference can be had at a point P in front of several radiators. So this way, if we are able to do that, then we say the beam is pointing towards the point P. Generation of a directional lobe in a phased array. How do we get highly directional beam from a phased array can be seen in this diagram. If all the elements of this antenna array are given with the same phase, you can see that all the waves are generated at the same time, and hence the beam will be pointing towards the bore site axis, that is normal to the array axis. If we provide any phase shift to different elements, then the waves will be starting at different times and they will be progressing. So if you take the wave front of this, it will not be perpendicular to the direction of the wave movement. It will be at an angle. That means the beam axis is going to be located other than the direction normal. So this is shown in this diagram. So what we understood is that in an array, if the elements are given with different phases, the response, that is the beam, is going to be pointing to different directions. Conversely, if you want the beam to be pointed at different directions, the input to the different elements must have different phase shifts. Now let us see how we can achieve these phase shift to different elements. Basically, there are three techniques. They are known as time delay, frequency and phase. The purpose what we are going to get by this is the beam is going to be placed at different directions, or what we call in general as scanning. So these three different techniques are known as time delay scanning methods, frequency scanning and phase scanning. Let us try to understand each of them. First, time delay scanning. Use of time delay to achieve the desired phase shift to different elements. And time delay networks are installed in front of each radiating element. But what is the price we are going to pay for this? Definitely it's going to increase the complexity of the network, and those elements are heavy. Moreover, it's going to be finally an expensive proposition. In the diagram shown here, you can have a look that from the feeding network we are getting the power output, and after that we are going to introduce these time delay networks of different durations for different elements. As you can see, there is a progressive phase shift that is required for array operation, and hence the time delay also increases starting from first element to the last element in a progressive manner. Frequency scanning. The physical length of the waveguide to delay the frequency interval is used to get this frequency shift, and another one is vary the frequency about a base frequency value. And the advantage we are going to have is it's very simple and relatively inexpensive. So you can see in this diagram, suppose we have a waveguide feeding a set of horns at different locations. If we place them exactly at lambda g spacing, then the wave that is going to excite these horns, you can see that can be adjusted to give in-phase excitation by adjusting the electrical length between two successive horns as 1 lambda distance. So in the diagram here, you can see the peak of each wave is connected to the radiating element. But if the frequency of operation is shifted slightly, you can see in the second diagram that the excitation to different elements will definitely have different amounts of phase shifts. If different phase shifts are given to the elements of an array, we already know that there will be a shift in the beam pointing direction. So by changing the frequency, we are able to shift the beam, and this arrangement doesn't need anything extra, just a flexibility in the design of the generator to change the frequency, or we need a tunable frequency generator that is normally available, and this process is the most simple in that case. So what is happening? Let us try to recapitulate. The beam steering is a function of the transmitted frequency. The frequency scanning array is a case of serial feeding type of a phased array antenna and is based on a particular property of wave propagation in a waveguide. The phase difference between two radiating elements is n times 360 degrees at the normal frequency. Let us see the third method. Here we are going for phase scanning. The input from the feeding network is passed through a phase shifter before it is applied to the radiating element. The phase shifter will have a specific input so that it provides the required amount of phase shift to that particular antenna element. So in an earlier technique of time delay scanning, we have used delay networks. Here we are going to use phase shifters, and they provide the required amount of phase shift directly, and hence the beam can be placed to the desired direction. Let us understand what exactly is the phase scanning. The radiating elements are fed by phase shifting networks, and they are electronically adjustable. But the other side is they are more expensive than frequency scanning but cheaper than time delay scanning method. But they are most widely used because of the ease of operation. By sending a computer control, we can set these 3 or 4 bit phase shifters very easily to the required value, and hence the operation can be completely computer controlled to get the beam pointing to different directions. So let us summarize what are the advantages we are going to derive by this electronic scanning method, or simply ESR, electronic scanning radar system. As we are going for electronic means, the scanning is done at very high speed. You can have multiple functions by the same radar system simultaneously. One beam can be used for search operation, another beam can be used for tracking operation. That means you can have track while scan done very easily with a phased array radar like this. Let us recapitulate what are the advantages we are going to derive by going for electronic scanning methods. The first and foremost is that we will be able to do the scanning at very high speed by switching over to electronic means. The second objective is multiple functions. That is, here we can search the space while we are also doing the tracking. So, track while scan can be easily implemented using a phased array system. The third one is that the beam steering is very much flexible or easy. Then the methods that can be employed for this are time delay, scanning method, frequency and phase shifter. Before we go into the details of this, let us try to understand why there will be a shift in the beam position if there is any phase shift between two successive elements. The figure here shows that if the two elements are fed with the same phase, then the beam pointing direction will be perpendicular to the axis of these two elements, and other beams will be located similar to this. But if we provide a phase shift between the two elements, then as you can see, with 10-degree shift itself, the beam is going to be pointed upwards slightly like this. So, the main beam always points in the direction of the increasing phase shift. If the signal to be radiated is delivered through an electronic phase shifter giving a continuous phase shift, then the beam direction will be adjustable electronically. But the beam cannot be steered to all the locations without any limit. Definitely there is a limit on the ability to steer the beam to different locations, or what we say is the field of view of a phased array is limited to plus 60 degrees from the normal to minus 60 degrees with reference to the normal to the array. That means there can be a 120 degree of coverage of field of view only with a phased array system. This is coming up due to a sign theorem in the analysis. What will be the other benefits we can achieve by going for a phased array? The advantages are listed here. There will be high gain and low side lobes because of the use of large aperture. The aperture in the earlier case of a parabolic dish is also large. The difference is that in the case of a parabolic dish, we can consider that as though there is a continuous signal that's going to be radiated. But in this case, if it is replaced with an array, that means you are going to send only the samples of this continuous signal. As we know, when we are converting an analog signal to a digital form, then we need to satisfy the Nyquist theorem. That means the sampling rate must be greater than 2 FM. The same way, here also we need to place the antenna elements normally at a spacing of 0.5 lambda. Then the second advantage we are going to have is ability for the beam to jump from one target to the next in a few microseconds. The third one is ability to provide an agile beam under computer control. And arbitrarily the modes of operation can be adjusted or modified. So you can have surveillance as well as tracking or both depending on your requirement. Then if you are going with a normal parabolic antenna which is operated by motors etc., then it will be continuously moving, and the time it is going to radiate the signals towards a target is prefixed depending on the RPM decided for the motors of this antenna system. You will have some 3 or 4 or 6 pulses to be incident on the target, and the return of those things should be used for processing the data. Or changing this dwell time on the target by the antenna system is a difficult task, whereas in a phased array the dwell time can be adjusted very easily because it is all done by electronic means. The other advantages that can be quoted are multifunction operation by emitting several beams simultaneously. Fault of single components reduces the capability, but the beam can be still used to a certain extent of inefficiency. Then the coverage is limited to 120 degrees sector in azimuth as well as in elevation if we handle a planar array. As we are going to use large number of antenna elements, then the amount of power we can radiate using all of them is also very high. So there is a good chance for transmitting high peak power and also average power. And a convenient means to employ solid state transmitters. There are active phased arrays these days wherein a small sized solid state transmitter is attached to the antenna element itself. By this, the feeding network complexity is eliminated to a great extent. The feeding network is now only to provide the DC input for these solid state transmitters. And the antenna array can be made by several types of antennas. They can be parabolic dishes, horn antennas, dipoles, or the new variety of microstrip antennas. If we can go for microstrip antenna array, we know very well that it can be flush mounted onto the surface of this system. Like it can be an aircraft or a missile or any other device like that which can have a curved shape. By this, we can see that the antenna array will have a low radar cross section. That means this radar system antenna may not be easily identifiable by another radar system. That is how we say that radar cross section of this is much less. All this doesn't come without a price. So let us see what are the limitations of this antenna array. As we go for scanning of the beam to different locations, the beam shape gets deformed. That is inevitable. Normally, the beam broadening takes place. The frequency range over which you can move the beam to different locations is also limited, or what we say is low frequency agility. The another major limitation is that the presence of grating lobes. There is going to be very complex structure of this radar system because of a processor, phase shifters and feeding network. The phase shifters are normally very expensive, and hence the cost of the whole system is still very high. Though these radars are being used for the last 40 years or so, still the costs are prohibitively large compared to the normal radar systems we have. So very specific applications where it is justified for the cost, we go for phased array systems. In India, you can see that phased array system being used for weather research near Tirupati, which we call it as MST radar system. So let us go to the analysis or theory part of these phased arrays. So here in this diagram, you are seeing that an array is being excited by a set of phase shifters having different phase shift values. So depending on this phi value between two successive elements we are providing, the beam is pointing towards another direction than the normal. Here the feeding of the signal to different elements can be done by two methods. One is series feeding. The power to the different elements is given through a common waveguide. There will be a phase shifter placed after each radiating element in the waveguide. Hence, all these phase shifters will have to be excited by the same command to give the same amount of phase shift. The advantage we can have is that one command signal is sufficient in this context. This type of feeding mechanism is normally used with frequency scan arrays, and there can be one waveguide which is sufficient to feed all the elements. So this waveguide we normally select it to have very low loss. The loss due to phase shifter can be easily overcome by the use of amplifiers in the path. Then what is the other side of this? Limitations of series feeding. Here the system is sensitive to changes in frequency. So if frequency is slightly modified, the beam is also shifted due to frequency scanning effect. And as the signal flows through several phase shifters to reach the end element, the loss for the signal is going to be very high. The shunt feeding technique. That means here parallelly all the elements will be getting the signal at the same time from the source. The source power is divided into two parts initially. Each part is again divided into another two. Those two are again divided into another two, like this. So this structure resembles the hierarchy in a corporate system. Hence, this is also known as corporate feed. And at the end of this feeding mechanism, we will have the phase shifters, and hence the phase shifters will have different values depending on the location of the element in the array. So we need to give separate command signal to each of the phase shifters, and the command signals also will be different for these phase shifters. So in this case we have different amount of loss compared to the series feeding, and here before the element there is only one phase shifter. So the loss of the phase shifter in the entire network from the source up to the element, there is only one time we are going to add for this. In this picture here you can see how we can extend this linear array to a planar array. A set of waveguides will be used to feed the array in a column wise, and row wise each set will act like a simple linear array, and hence you can have a total planar array system as shown in this. So these antenna elements will have a matrix combination. That means each element can be identified by its position along the row and along the columns. The advantages are the ray deflection in two planes is possible, and the disadvantages are complicated arrangement and more electronically controlled phase shifters are needed. Can we have frequency scanning in this context as well? Yes. By changing the frequency, the angle theta between the axis of the main beam and the normal on the antenna array changes. And here the height information is generated using the following philosophy. If the transmitted frequency rises, then the beam travels up the face of the antenna. If the transmitted frequency falls, then the beam travels down the face of the antenna. So either elevation or azimuth scanning is done by frequency, and the other plane scanning is done by phase. This is what we call it as phase frequency scanning technique. This is the normal practice, but at times we may go for phase scanning also. That means the row wise elements will be provided with different phase shifters, and the column wise elements are provided with another set of phase shifters, and by adjusting the phase shift to the two phase shifters of an element in the array, we can see that the beam is placed to a particular location in elevation as well as in azimuth. So as the frequency is varied, the beam axis will change and the scanning can be accomplished in elevation. The radar set is designed so that it keeps track of the frequencies as they are transmitted and then detects and converts the return frequencies into 3D display data. The frequency scanning is very simple and advantageous in the operation, but it reduces the value of using frequency range, and you will find this tough to handle the other latest techniques like pulse compression, etc. in this. How do we calculate the phase increment? The phase shift delta phi between two successive elements is constant and is called as the phase increment, and in some other books you will find this as progressive phase shift. How large is this phase shift to reach a certain value of the beam steering? That can be calculated by simple equations available. So a linear arrangement by isotropic radiating elements is looked at for simplicity of understanding. As I mentioned earlier, one more disadvantage of these phased arrays is grating lobes. What are these lobes? They are undesirable patterns which occur due to the multiplicity of radiating elements, basically by Floquet's theorem. And the most troublesome part is that they contain the reactive part of the radiated power, and if the scanning takes place, they move away from the visible region of the antenna system on one side, but they try to enter into the visible region from the other side. So if they enter into the visible region of the antenna array, then it is going to introduce the reactive power or the reactive impedance of the antenna elements, and this is the disadvantage which we have to accept if we go for a spacing of 0.5 lambda between the elements or more. If we don't practice this 0.5 lambda spacing and go for higher spacings in the design itself, then the grating lobes will be present even under non-scan condition and give rise to reactive impedance of the elements, which is more troublesome. So to avoid these grating lobes, even under non-scan condition, we place them just at the outside of the visible region. We hence design the antenna array with 0.5 lambda spacing. Now let us try to understand the most crucial part of the antenna array, that is the phase shifter. Then how do we get a phase shift between input and output signals? As we see this equation, this phase shift is provided by 2 pi L by lambda or 2 pi FL by root mu epsilon. So in this we have 4 parameters by which we can change the phase shift. They are F, frequency; L, the length of the transmission line between input and output; then the mu, permeability; and epsilon, the permittivity. So by changing any of these parameters, we can get different amounts of phase shift. So let us have a comparison of the methods to get phase shift. First, let us see how we can get by varying the frequency. In this method, it is very simple. By changing the oscillator frequency, we can get different amounts of phase shift between input and output of a particular transmission line. But it is no longer popular since restricts the use of bandwidth for other purposes and is possible for one angle scanning only. Let us see the second one, by changing the line length. This is by electronically switching in or out various lengths of transmission line to achieve the desired phase shift. So this is very popularly used these days, and these type of phase shifters are now called as digital phase shifters. So here for switching application of this transmission line we use diodes, and hence this is also known as diode phase shifter. The third one is by changing the permeability of the medium between the input and output of a particular block. So this block will have ferrite or ferromagnetic materials, and they exhibit a change in the permeability when the applied magnetic field is changed. So by using an electromagnet we change the magnetic properties of this medium. The electromagnetic will have the input as the current. So a computer controlled mechanism can be developed to change the current applied to this phase shifter, and hence the medium permeability is changed. The third one is also very successfully used in certain types of phase shifters called Boyd's phase shifters. Then the fourth one is permittivity. A permittivity of ferroelectric materials change with the change in the applied voltage. So a change in the current of an electrical discharge also results in a change in the electron density, which produces a change in permittivity. But this practice is not much. Changing the velocity is directly possible by another technique. So this is accomplished by changing the broad dimension of the waveguide, and hence the phase velocity of the signal traveling through this waveguide. What are the qualities we expect for these phase shifters? First of all, we should get a rapid change in the phase shift, and it should be able to handle high peak and average power. It should require very less control signals to operate, and hence it should be able to handle or get the required phase shift with a very little amount of drive signal power. The input to the output, the degradation in the signal must be as low as possible. This is commonly known as insertion loss. So low insertion loss is another quality we expect for these phase shifters, and it should be insensitive to changes in temperature. Normally, as we know in electronics, we require very small size for this, and if it is ensured, we can also see that the weight is also generally less. So another quality is low weight, and the last one should be low cost. But no one phase shifter can give all these qualities. In this figure you are seeing a phase shifter which can provide 45 degrees or 90 degrees or 180 degrees phase shift as you desire by combining the detour lines. So the detour lines are faster along with this compared to regulators. So a 4-bit switching phase shifter is shown in this, which is used in most of the radar systems. Different detour lines are switched to the signal way. It is created therefore for 16 different phase angles between 0 degrees to 337.5, because the next step is again equal to 0 degrees. So each step is about 22.5 degrees. The inductance can also be recognized in this to switching voltage supplies for the total 24 PIN or pin diodes. Since this phase shifter module works both for the transmitting and for the reception, branching between these two paths are attached with PIN diode switches on the ceramic strap at the entrance and exit of the module. please try to understand that we need these phase shift only for the transmitted signal. We don't need this for the received signal. Hence, when the signal is being received by the antenna system, these phase shifters will be switched back to zero phase shift so that all the signals can be easily combined to get a high received signal input for the receiver. So for that purpose, the switches must be acting very fast. The same data word must be used for the reception time and for the transmitting movement. This one radiator transmitting the latest phase shift first receives the echo signal. Its phase shifter must have the largest detour line for diagram forming in a decided direction. The same detour line is needed for a summation of the received energy and the video pulse. Otherwise, the pulse spreading takes place. The phase shifter routes the microwave signal that is supplied to each radiating element through cables of varying length. The cables delay the wave, thereby shifting the relative phase of the output. This illustration shows the three basic delays each phase shifter can introduce. The switches are fast PIN diode switches. A central computer calculates the proper phase delay for each of the radiating elements and switches in the appropriate combination of phase shifter pathways. This the diagram where a digital phase shifter is shown with the input phase of the signal and the corresponding output phase. This is all possible with the PIN diode switches only, but they are operational up to 5 GHz. Beyond that, the loss due to a phase shifter is going to increase drastically, and hence another alternative is suggested than this digital phase shifter type, that is by Boyd's phase shifters. So in this digital phase shifter, by closing proper switches, all possible combinations can be included. But in the zero phase state, a minimum phase shift definitely occurs. This must be kept in mind for all the calculations. Another type of phase shifter is shown in this diagram, which is known as hybrid coupler. Let us see its operation. Signal at port 1 is divided between ports 2 and 3, and no signal appears at port 4 in the normal case. But the output ports are short circuited in this context. So the return power will be delivered at port 4. For this, the diode switches will be closed. So if the diodes are open, the power is reflected without any phase shift and delivered through port 4. But if you close these diodes, the short circuited line will come into picture. Depending on the length of the line, you will have the amount of phase shift introduced, and by keeping equal line lengths in the ports 2 and 3, you can see that the signal reflected by these two ports can be combined easily, and you get the output with a specific phase shift at port 4. So depending on this length, for different hybrid couplers, you can get different amounts of phase shifts coming out for this. So by using n different lengths, n different phase shifters can be realized, and they can be used either with zero phase shift or the fixed amount of phase shift, as the case may be. In the diagram shown here, we are seeing another type of phase shifter called loaded line phase shifter. It is a transmission line periodically loaded with switched impedances. Diodes are used as switches in this. The spacing between the diodes is quarter wavelength. Adjacent lambda by 4 spaced loading impedances are equal and can take either of two values. If the magnitude of susceptance is small compared to characteristic impedance of the line, the lambda by 4 spacing will result in cancellation of the reflections from any pair of symmetrical susceptances. This ensures matching for either of two susceptance conditions. Each pair of diodes spaced a lambda by 4 apart produces increment of the total phase required. Shunt capacitive elements increase the length and shunt inductive elements decrease the length. To obtain high power handling capability, many such sections with small phase increments can be used. What are the advantages? The advantage is its ability to handle larger power than other diode based phase shifters. Let us have a comparison of these different types of structures to get the phase shift. The hybrid coupler has less loss, uses the least number of diodes and can operate over a wide band. The switched line phase shifter uses more diodes than the other types and has an undesirable phase frequency response. Of course, this can be corrected at the expense of higher insertion loss. So, it is used in low power systems. For 360-degree coverage, the loaded line requires 32 diodes, the switched line requires 16, hybrid coupled shifter needs only 8 diodes. The switched line phase shifter has the greatest insertion loss. The loaded line is often preferred for small phase increments because of its compact size. Hybrid coupled reflection circuit is ideal for 90-degree and 180-degree bits of phase shift. So, in a phase shifting network, we use combinations of these different types. So, for 90 and 180 degrees phase shift, we use hybrid coupler. For small phase increments like 22.5 or something like this, we go with loaded line, and for other cases, we may go with the switched type and other things. So, combinations is the best choice. The PN diode is mostly used in all the types of these phase shifters. It is a popular choice, but there is an alternative for us. The varactor can also be used as a switch. It is capable of very rapid switching, but its average power handling capability is limited. As a special case, let us see something at this juncture. Cosecant square theta pattern system is a special case of these phased arrays. This is an antenna with its beam shape proportional to the cosecant squared of the angle in one plane and with a conventional narrow beam in the other plane. Why do we go for this? This ensures constant input signal to the receiver for the targets approaching at constant height. As the target approaches, the looking angle of the antenna increases with the horizontal and the range decreases. Hence, we get huge amount of input signal to the receiver, which is likely to saturate. So, to protect the receiver against this, the receiving pattern is modified as cosecant square theta such that the received signal is always constant. This pattern has also been important for air surface surveillance radars that must provide relatively uniform coverage of surface. How do we realize this? This pattern may be approximated with a reflector antenna by modifying the shape of the reflecting surface. Another method is to feed a parabolic surface with 2 or more horns. A linear array may be excited with a non-uniform excitation. A parabolic cylinder fed by a linear array can be used. A point source feeding a reflector surface with a double curvature is another option we have to realize this. But what is the other side of this? the gain of a cosecant squared antenna array will be less than the gain of a conventional antenna from which it was derived. We know so many things about phased array. Let us try to see some basics of its complementary antenna, which we call it as synthetic aperture array radar. It uses the same theory of electronic scanning. Motion of the target used as the antenna aperture. Normally, this radar or this antenna array is going to be placed on the aircraft, and this system is very much suited for land mapping. So, using a simple antenna system, we are going to move around the region which is to be mapped, and by taking the time samples of this received signal, we integrate them together to map the land very easily. So, sequential input signals will be required for this instead of simultaneous signals, and the result what we are going to get is high resolution image of the land through an aircraft. So, the diagram which is representing this is shown here. There is an inverse mechanism also we do for this, which we call it as inverse synthetic aperture radar system, ISAR. As a closing one, you can see how different electronic scanning radars are used in the fleet for different locations in this. Any questions, please? Thank you.